Guys, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Franchise Advisory Board, where we bring in experts from the franchise community to help you learn, from their mistakes, from their successes, from tips and tricks, things that they're doing that can help you build a memorable and a thriving franchise brand. Today, I've got a friend with me, Kris Stuart. If you guys haven't seen him before, you should get to know Kris. He is, and I'm going to tell you, I'll give him a chance to brag too, but I want to brag on my friend for a second before we get started. He's the CEO of Bloomin Blinds. It's a founder-led and unapologetically customer-first franchise brand in the window covering space. And there are a couple of really cool things about Bloomin Blinds. One, Kris's mom, Karen, founded it. It's actually her birthday today. Happy birthday, Karen! And they're now second generation operating the franchise brand. I'll let Kris tell us a little bit more about how many units are operating and things like that. But they've grown an amazing brand here. But Kris is unique because he spent 12 years as a firehouse, a fire lieutenant, paramedic in North Texas. And ironically, when we were talking before, Kris said, it's interesting that running a franchise brand, running a firehouse is eerily similar. So we're going to give him a chance to qualify that on the podcast today as well. But when he's not running the family biz, traveling around, trying to help prop up the franchise industry and help support the franchisees, he's at home with his wife and kids, his wife Leslie. So, Kris, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for making time, man.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
Dude, tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us about Bloomin' Blinds and yourself, and then this journey that you guys have been on the last 12 or 18 months.
You bet. So it started all about 2001. I arrived in Texas January of 2001. Couch surfed on my younger brother's couch in his dorm here at Collin County College for a while. No ambition. I was on my way to Vermont. I was going to go be a chef and snowboard all day. And I was at 22. That's about as far as my planning stages had taken me. So enter somewhere around mid-July. Mom had been divorced. Kevin got down to earth first. I came down, and then mom arrives with the Ryder truck full of her entire life, relocating down to Texas.
Mhm.
Shortly after, she had gotten sick and wasn't able to continue her plan. So she asked me if I would help start up this blind business she had brought down from Washington with her. And our awesome planning at the time failed to realize that the business name that we had in Washington was already taken in Texas. So scramble, find new name. There's a whole story podcast on how we selected the name Bloomin' Blinds, but enter the name Bloomin' Blinds in the yellow pages. And on September 11th, 2001, we got stamped as approved and started business in the state of Texas. And so for the first few years, we spent just mom and I. I was in a 1996 four-door white Chevy Lumina, fixing blinds on the rear trunk lid on
Uh-huh.
customers' driveways. It's in the rain. At one point, I had a 10 by 10 pop-up tent that I would set up over the trunk to work in the shade in the summertime. It was, it was the classic grit startup, whatever it took to get it done, which to some degree carried. But so that's what we did for the first few years. Older brother joined a couple years later, and we ran a successful family, a mom and son's window covering retail operation through 2014, when my brother introduced me to this thing where if you just teach people how to do the job, they'll mail you a check every month, and they call it franchising.
Hmm.
And that's all you got to do is just show them the job and send them off to the races, and you'll become a mega millionaire overnight. Super easy. Sounds fun. Sign me up. Got our first franchise in 2015 and instantly realized that was nowhere near the truth, and none of those things had anything to do with each other. Um, but that was 6 years into my career as a firefighter. And now the dynamics are changing from public safety with a retirement and pension and things after 20 or 30 and out
Mhm.
to now we have a franchise operation that's going to need some full-time commitment and more attention. So enter a transition phase of out of fire full-time franchisor. And that's where this kind of I didn't realize what was happening or what I was realizing at the time, but that transition, that identity crisis from where someone in uniform or someone that's so passionate or committed to a previous position, identity, job, whatever it is, or opportunity, becomes so much of you. That's the identity crisis that those in uniform struggle with, when they leave that. And for me, franchising became almost a direct, if not increased replacement for that service idea of why I loved firefighting so much and why I thrived in that environment was because it was an actual tactical application of the concept of being able to help someone, right? Like
Mhm.
you could say, I'm gonna help, I want to help you. If you ever need any help, just call me, right? Like how many times have we sent that text message? If you need
Right.
anything, text me. This to me was the actual like I can touch what this feels like. I can do this, actually do this thing and get the instant gratification of that effort. And then enter franchising and I could do like, okay, actual touching, actual benefiting, providing assistance, like that unapologetically customer first. Like customer has multiple levels, right? Our first customer is our franchisee. Second customer is or their customer, right? We have franchising industry, vendor partners as customers. So everybody needs a level of service. And so there was a I absolutely replaced one with the other, and I've thrived since understanding that because it is what I needed to be happy as a person, let alone as a output function. So
Mhm.
that now that I get to run the place, again, going back to the well for experience, this our office here is structured very similarly to a firehouse of a bunch of miscreant children with high responsibility levels and incredible skill sets waiting for something to do and trying to, not step on each other's toes and fingers as we're all wrestling, waiting for the next thing to do. So,
Is there a brass pole? I've got to ask. Everyone's going to want to know. So, you guys have a brass pole in the office?
no, those things take way too much maintenance.
Oh, dude, that would be so fun. All right. Well, next, when you guys move offices, find one that's 2 stories and you can cut a hole in the loft, right? That would just be amazing.
It's not the first time it's been requested.
Hey, so today, the reason why, guys, I wanted Kris here, and you're going to hear a lot from him about this. You guys have been going through. I mean, franchise brand's been live for 11 years now, right? Did I get that right? In 2015, first
11,
franchisee store.
12.
Okay, so you guys have been around for over a decade, and you guys have, like every single franchise brand that's ever been founded, you've got growth phase and everything's going pretty well, and then there's like the turbulence, and then you adjust, and then you get back on track, and then turbulence. So you guys have had some turbulence in a good, I'd say constructive turbulence. And the reason why I wanted him here is we're talking about like how do you, as the franchisor, there are things that are scary, right? Trying to make system changes, trying to help franchisees make adjustments to their business model, their behavior. It's hard. It's hard work. Franchise owners, or they've got their livelihood on the line, so they're reticent to make changes a lot of times. So you guys have been navigating a lot of really positive, I'd say, changes over the last, 12 months or so. So we're going to talk about that, guys. Like, how do you have the courage to make the changes? What motivates you to make the change? How do you communicate? How do you work with the franchise owners? And then, and ultimately, like you start to see the early, you're in the stage now where you're seeing the early adjustments that are happening as you guys are making really important investments in your customer first mindset toward the franchise owners. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe if you don't mind, uh, can you maybe take us to the moment where you realized, I think we need to make some changes? Because I think a lot of people are maybe there and they don't realize it, or they don't have the courage to say, I think I need to make changes. So do you mind sharing just as about your experience? Like, how did you know it was time that you guys needed to make some changes?
You probably will say it a dozen times or more to yourself or to others before you hear what you're saying. Um, right. And to me, that's what I recognize is like saying this is important, saying this is important, saying this is important. In our case, it was franchisee revenue and profitability.
Hmm.
They're not climbing, and we need them to climb.
Hmm.
Sales are climbing, but AUVs aren't climbing, right? The system is growing, but the stores aren't growing. And if the store growth is the number one thing, listen to our own echo chamber. Like
Hmm.
we're saying it to ourselves, listen to yourself, like identify and just be willing to say, we're not doing what we're saying we're doing. And to own, just take a responsibility for your own efforts. And if they're not working, stop doing them, right? If it hurts when you do it, don't do it. I mean, parents used to tease us all the time. So once you realize that, clarity, transparency, whatever cliche term you want to call it, it's very simple, honestly. It is difficult, but it is not hard. Right? All work is hard, all change is hard, all things that aren't status quo take effort. And I think the greatest level of that effort is in the initiation of it. After that, things are in motion. Um, I think there's a trigger point, and I'm pretty binary in that perspective. I'm either not doing it or I'm doing it. And if I'm
Mhm.
not doing it, I'm not doing any of it. But if I'm doing it, like, stay out of the way, because come hell or high water, it's getting done. And that was as the founder, as the owner, as the one who'd watched the buck get passed and realizing, oh shit, they're passing my buck.
Mhm.
That was the realization. Okay, now I now have to listen to my own sermon.
Mhm.
There's nobody else preaching.
Yeah. Well,
And
amen.
here we
Amen.
are, like,
Preach
yeah,
on. Preach on. Yeah, but
yeah,
this is a tricky thing, dude. So people struggle. I know tons of brands that have kind of hit this wall where they're like, wait a minute. Like we have brands coming up, people like it's an attractive brand. People like it. We've got good enough validation. FTD Item 19 looks good. Whatever it is that like, you've got a good franchise development team. And candidates are excited about it and they can see themselves growing the business and they see enough validation that's worth the investment. So they buy. And yet, I love the fact that if we really peel back what you're saying, that's not good enough, right? That's not good enough. Just the fact that people are willing to buy, there's more to being a franchisor than just making sure you're slinging units. And I love that you guys kind of listen to your own sermon and realize this isn't where it should be.
well, and it's buying and selling. It's on both sides, right? Like the excitement and the draw. I'll go. Try it another direction. Proven systems, right?
Mhm.
Franchises are proven systems.
Right.
That's the end point. That statement has a finality to it that I'm uncomfortable with, and I think is disingenuous on its on its face, is because time, situations, environments, politics, markets, finances, everything changes. And so, if that system is proven in that set of conditions, what happens when the conditions change? Are we still
Mhm.
celebrating this proven system that no longer is adaptable or adapting as fast to the new market conditions or the new scenario we find ourselves in? And as much as I value and absolutely hang hat on that concept of proven system, there's almost like an asterisk that's not being mentioned of until things change and we have to then reprove. And
Yeah.
that's the truth of it. And sometimes when you have to reprove, bad word, I understand, but you won't get it right the
Yeah.
first time, right? So
Mhm.
a well-respected, proven brand will find itself back in emerging struggles. And if they don't recognize that, that's not an experienced problem. It's the same problem that emerging units are dealing with. They just don't have the resource capacity that the larger brand does, which should make that solution set even easier to find. But
Mhm.
if a small brand can find it with limited resources, then it's a creativity issue or a ability to consider solutions versus a resource limitation. And that's where I think there's not enough conversation around is in that reproving. Like once you hit proven, it's like you're like the brand's done and you could just punch out and just coast. Like this, it's absolutely not happening. Nobody actually does it, but we're not saying that there's a reproving step that will be necessary in a continuing fashion, and it too will challenge you, and it too will have differing opinions, and it too will bring you right back to the well of struggle and
Mhm.
issue. And if you've taken off all that armor, all that clothes, you think you're not going back out in the winter again, and all of a sudden you got to go take the trash out.
Mhm.
You got
Yeah.
to gear back up, and now it takes what took a minute and a half to reel the tub to the curb. Now it's a 10-minute ordeal. You got to get dressed, put your boots on, do that whole thing.
Yeah.
Or you could have sucked it up and ran the garbage to the curb and got back inside and done it really fast. It would have been painful. Your feet would have hurt. It'd be cold, but it would have got done faster, more efficient. You would have been back to whatever you were doing. So two ways to do it. Some were more comfortable with one than the other. Pick one and do it as best you possibly can.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing that up because a lot of people have this faulty notion that, hey, I launched my brand, I've got some traction, and now I get to go on autopilot, and the brand is going to continue to grow. But the challenge is, as you brought it up, like everything around the brand is changing. The marketplace, the trade
Yeah.
dynamics, the employability of the next generation. Like, don't get me started. That's another topic for another time. Like, there are all these things that are changing rapidly around us. Our currency value, read some news that's not CNN and Fox. Like, there are a lot of things happening right now in the world that business owners are not savvy to. They're like, can have a real impact on us in the next 2 to 3 years. And sometimes people get blindsided, right? Technology changes very quickly. There's a little thing called AI, I guess, whatever. But so if you're not paying attention, like as technology retools itself over and over again, or the market's changing, marketing strategies are changing, like you cannot ever get into a steady coast state in franchising or even business ownership in general, but less so in franchising because it's double layers of business that you got to monitor.
But to further your point, even if none of those other conditions change and you scale from 5 to 25 units,
Hmm.
your internal environment changes. Your responsibility, like even if the rest of your externals are constant, your internal environment can be just as disruptive with that much to growth inserted in it. And everybody's going to deal with it. And some do it with far more grace and a preparation than others. And I think it's a much like our franchisees, right? There's a concept of build it or buy it. Zors are going to enter a similar situation, and I would encourage Zors to buy experience up front as fast as possible. Your widget is a good study, is a widget. It's probably been studied multiple times over, but these experiences, these fights that we're going to have with each other internally, these family fights, you'll want an older brother
Hmm.
that's won a couple
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Tell me,
early on.
tell me about this concept. So, you're talking about have like buying the experience up front. Like what do you mean by that? As a franchisor, how do you buy this experience up front to operate better?
Oh, well, from anecdotally my experience, right? I've got a whole team of window covering experts that came up
Mhm.
in the industry. They're really good with window coverings. Our perspective was we'll support you in doing the job really well with the widget resources, and then we'll grow the brand afterwards. Like our first promise is to help you run a good business. Our
Mhm.
second is to grow the brand when we're not helping you grow your operation. So it goes back to, dang it, the thought train slipped.
That's
Start me
okay, but
back up.
yeah, we're talking about well, so you hired, so I guess help
Buy the build
answering
it or
your
buy
question.
it.
Yeah, you hired
Yeah.
a bunch of people with a bunch of experience to be the coaches to help the franchise owners know what they're actually doing with the product, right?
Now that I've been engaged in franchising so much, it's the understanding the equal responsibility to the franchise. Like, I think it's wrong to say we'll help you do your widget and then we'll build a brand. I think the right posture is I have equal responsibility to build a brand for you as I do to help you support your widget. I
Mhm.
think that's a much more balanced and
Yeah,
successful position, as I've since learned. And
yeah.
so that's the build it or buy it, right? Like if you're going to be a franchisor and you're going to start supporting this widget, also identify very early on that the other elements, which are the franchise experience, your development, your marketing team, your coaching team, all those other resources are just as deep of a bench as your widget, because
Mhm.
that's the other true responsibility that you don't know yet what you don't know. So buy that experience, install it fast. You're
Mhm.
going to pay for it one way or the other, right? What do they say? Poor people always have enough to pay twice. Or there's some cliche that goes, right, instead of buying quality the first time or the first one you want, right? There's enough, you somehow find enough shekels to do it again, to learn it again and keep going.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
um, there's
I
a lot
think
there.
if you don't
There's
mind, I just I want to circle back to this point, right? Because I've seen brands that have launched quickly and successfully because they've followed this playbook that you just mentioned, which is you build a bench of people with talent and let's use a baseball analogy here, right? Like running a baseball franchise, I love that they call it a franchise, is you got to have the right team members, right? You got to recruit, you got to have a team that's recruiting the right people. You also have to have the right coaching staff. Right. And you also have to have a really good general manager that helps you manage your salary caps and your coaching, like the all the logistics of running the program. And you'll see there are some franchises that have consistently much more success than others.
Yep.
They might not have the sexiest stadium in the industry, but they got the best bullpen, and boy, they can hit the ball, right? Franchisors, like you guys are sitting in that role where you got to manage all the logistics, but bringing the right people into staff first. You can see right now in college football, when you get a solid head coach or a line coach that moves,
Hmm.
he sucks the right people with them. You hire somebody to help run your franchise your field coaches, right? Your business coaches, who's been doing it for 15 years. Maybe they went through Angela Cote training, whatever. Like they're skilled, experienced people. That person's going to have more impact on franchisee success than the guy who initially came up with the cool widget idea for the franchise. So I just want to
Yep.
reiterate what you're saying. Like it's brilliant, and I've seen it at play. And those who have done it right or who have chosen to invest in that brain trust, they succeed a lot better.
The truth, I don't think there's enough realization that new Zors, particularly, that's why I love the emerging space so much, is because they're so hungry and the ones that really want it are out there looking for it. And I wish I could go back and be that guy now. But I realize that you're gonna pay for it one way or the other. All right. Like, and if you can get a hold of it early on and start with that the same growth that our franchisees as new business owners, particularly for our brand, because we're looking for new business owners, right? Like they're exiting the corporate world and this is their first endeavor to take their own future in their own hands. I love that guy. I want to support that guy. That's that transition in life that I really like and look forward to helping. But there's a emerging Zors are going through a very similar transition as their Z's, and I just don't know where their open conversation is as they're encountering things for the first time, right? Like that playbook that the other guys are using, man, it's like home service franchising. There's a pretty similar, we're all getting customers in a very similar way, QSR. There's some similarities, right? Like Zors should adopt that acceptance of there's a playbook for Zors, right? And not just it's a thing and it's some, but it's true, right? Like that experience, the miles walked, the lessons learned are worth every nickel that experience is going to cost you more than the rookie that you're looking at as saved salary on. Pay twice, get three times the benefit. So looking back, I just think that experience in an emerging brand, I can't. You'll never know what it'll cost you if you don't.
Yeah. Well, and I love there are advisors and consultants and people. I just had a call earlier today with a guy who helped grow a brand to like 600 units, and now he's coaching brands that I know, and and we were having a great conversation. But there are people out there that can help, but you have to just weed through the charlatans who have never done it well, but they still charge people to coach them. There are people that
Yeah,
are excellent and know like this is what you're talking about. Like if you don't have the knowledge, buy the knowledge, right? Like why do you go to college to get a skill? Like, well, you can rapidly get that skill in, say 4 years rather than spend 10 years trying to acquire that knowledge firsthand. It depends on what you're studying. I'll just say that. But yeah, you can acquire the skills and the experience you need through learning and advisement, hiring the right staff members. Totally agree with that.
simple, simple decisions that are hard to put pride away for to make. Like again, it's the initiation point that's the hardest to get through.
Oh yeah. My personal opinion or philosophy is you always try to hire someone who's smarter than you, better than you,
Oh yeah,
right? And even if you're pretty freaking good, go find someone who's
yeah,
better than you. And
keep going.
because yeah, they'll challenge you, and they'll make the organization better.
Yep.
Eventually they might replace you. And by the way, that's okay. Put your ego to bed, man. Like it's not about you all the time. And speaking of, so you guys had a really interesting journey with tech. Do you mind if I bring this up?
Sure.
Like because you guys were running headlong down a road, investing heavily in something. Can you talk to me about like one? Obviously, there was a vision behind that, and at some point, I think franchisees were kind of supportive of that, but it felt like it got a little bit off track from what it needed to be. So you made a pretty bold decision with respect to that. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that experience that you had?
Yeah. The peak of the AI wave. Um, I think once you understand what potential truly could be, and you have a creative mind that considers those things, for me, that's right where I sit. It became very, oh my goodness, type mindset. Like, what is possible? And what we had settled on a chase of was a need for a tool and a platform that didn't yet exist. And what we wanted this tool to do was create a pathway where franchisees' assumptions on their product is validated. So assumptions are eliminated and bottom line margin erosion is stopped, and
Mm-hmm.
everything is checked against a very specific data point before they're allowed to commit their funds to the risk potential of buying a product that they weren't sure about. That was the entire end goal of this entire thing that became this massive AI platform project build. And kind of back to my previous point about kind of clarity and knowing exactly why you're doing it and letting that kind of be a pull through for you. That's where this started, and it was awesome, and that's where the excitement came from. Because if that were the goal and that were the win,
Mm-hmm.
by all means, like, applaud all day. But
Right.
what it became was mission creep, right? If you try and do something grand and bold that you don't know how to do, you'll have just tried something grand and bold,
Mm-hmm.
which, like power tools, make fast and big mistakes, right? Hand tools, power tools. So that's and speed to answer, speed to information, enter AI. Right now, we have a power tool of this capacity to build and envision things, and put it together, and it got too big, and
Mm-hmm.
it created a lack of clarity where there once was, and the excitement and the draw faded with that. But I don't know if it's but a contributing factor to the inability to see it and to pull back from that initiative by the
Mm-hmm.
time we had kind of lost that mission clarity. Um, it became almost a pride. It became hard to do because we really wanted to fix this for somebody else.
Yeah.
Like, this is for you guys. Like, just let us finish. Just come on. It's really exciting. And the whole time they're like, we don't want it anymore. I'm not excited anymore. This isn't interesting. And they had seen that the mission creep had set in and that the misalignment was taking place. That what it started was and what it was now was not the same thing. And again, if you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing and you can say and you're saying it to yourself, just stop and listen to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And if that so when I took over, it was very easy decision, again, difficult but easy, to say that to get recalibrated, to put the focus where it needs to be, which is our franchisees. Within a week after I took the role, everything that wasn't franchisee facing or in direct support of got arm swept off the board. Projects canceled, investment just that one didn't work.
Yeah.
Team separated, but that was just that was a piece of a larger bit of clarity that was resetting the brand back to that focus point of franchisee profitability, not system growth, franchisee growth. And so I think I felt it was necessary to do it at that level of impact to show the desire to chase this goal and not that. But the journey through that AI chase changed the way the home office team thinks, their speed of processing, the amount of what is possible and what could I do with like, we've already gone through our year and a half of figuring out how to work with AI, what tools don't use it. There was a time where I think we all had 5 or 6 different $20 a month subscriptions and different versions of
Sure.
testing. Like, just everything got put on the table to, like, what is potential, what is possibility, is this improvement, no, throw it away, what's the next one? And it just started iterating so fast. What we ended up getting back to was where we originally started.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
one thing that that process, don't want to say should have because I think the journey is necessary or evolutionary to some capacity, but I'm grateful for it because the outcome of it is that ultimate clarity through suffrage, right? It's,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
in the fire department, like a lot of the drills and lessons have guys' names attached to them, right? Because where you've lost a dude, you apply a lesson to not do it again.
Hmm.
And this feels like that for us. Like the franchisees gave us the grace and the patience and the time, not much extra, but the time to say, our bad, recorrect, recalibrate, let's fix this,
Hmm.
of which I'm extremely grateful for. But that's our lesson of a name attached to it to not do again. I'm glad we got it early, and as cheap as it was ever going to be, because as brands go through that journey now, it's going to add at least two more zeros to it, and the impact of it, I think it can has the potential to be greater because of the power of those tools now.
Yeah. But it was transformative, right? And this is one of the
Completely.
things I love when you and I've had conversations off mic about this, about the journey is there was is you acted with clarity because you knew it was wrong, right? You're like, well, this is like our alignment with our goal to provide world-class support to our franchise owners. And because you were stepping back into it, it was crystal clear for you. Where I think sometimes people that are in the middle of the fight, they can't see what's happening with the war. I feel like sometimes that was a blessing to step in and see it from with a fresh set of eyes and say, "Oh, our goal is this. Here's our mission to help our franchisees be wildly successful. And this task and all this attention that we're pouring into it with limited resources, a franchisor is tangentially related to that. You told me you're like it was easy, like it was easy to make the decision because I could see it. But that's because I think your perspective was clear. How would you advise a franchise brand that might feel like they're drifting? Like what could they do so they could gain clarity even if they might be in the middle of it? You know?
I mean, it sounds simplistic, but ask your customers, ask your franchisees, um, right? Like especially for someone that did the job, like you get this arrogance, and I think, lack of a better term, you just get this bravado that you think you're doing it for the right reason, so it must be the right thing, and they're not always the same. I mean, this seems so easy to I hear myself say it. I'm like, duh, like, why didn't you hear that, a year or so ago? But the truth of the matter is, I was the guy with my head down doing the thing. I was the guy building that software, like trying to develop that. So change seats, change perspective. I've got to stop and cancel the entire project I was just head down in for a year and a half. And so that was the easy, like that was my project I threw away. But again, like to your point, change the seat, change the perspective. The clarity was instantaneous
Hmm.
of why I said I'm taking this seat and looking over at what I was doing. Wait, what I'm saying here and what I was doing over there don't align. This is more important than that. That has to go.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing the ego had to take a little bit of a hit as you did that too, because like I'm eliminating my now unnecessary position that I used to hold. That must have taken a little bit of courage to eat crow on that.
It sucks, but the alternative is worse.
Yeah.
And for anyone that's struggling, like, I don't want to do that, okay, bring in what happens if you don't. Right?
Yeah.
That's what no one wants to admit is if I don't what? We all don't want to do something, right? No one wants to get a lecture or pen or whatever you have to do as a responsibility to your actions, but that's life. And
Yeah.
when you sign up to be more responsible, you take that all the way. Like we agreed to be franchisors. That's not severable from parts that we like and parts we don't. That's all of
Yeah, I love
it.
that. You're spot. It was like being a dad. Like, hey, well, I mean, you signed up for this, so we don't have to talk about that process, right? But like,
Right.
you're now like the poopy diapers and the snuggles. You get both, right? But you can't
And
have one without the other. That's not how it
how
works.
much dad advice did we get before we became dads? And it all seemed so new when they first arrived, right? It all just like slipped us.
Well,
Yeah.
I lost the manual on our way home from the hospitals. We weren't sure what we were doing, but yeah, fortunately they're all alive. And
Yeah.
there were some struggles along the way there, but yeah, it's true though. I love that the what happens if I don't analysis. I've gone through that myself, even when here with ClientTether, where I've looked down the road and said, "Oof, 12 months from now, 18 months from now, 2 years from now, what do things look like if I don't change this thing?" And then we've had to realign budgets and realign personnel and make some changes. And sometimes they're super uncomfortable. And sometimes, like you said, it's I was wrong about that. Like we took a big bet and I took a big bet on something not that long ago and it didn't pay off the way I thought it would. And so I had to come back and eat crow and say, okay, now we make some adjustments because we took the big bet. And now we're going to shift and take another bet. But it's okay. I mean, frankly, nobody got into business and was successful without failing 1,000 times beforehand, right? Like you just don't learn enough to be successful. I don't know a single guy. Like I'll just share this insight. Kevin Harrington, original shark from Shark Tank,
Mm.
super bright dude. He and I crossed paths because he and his son owned a brand and operated on our platform, and he presented at a conference right before I did a few years ago. And but he said something that always stuck with me. He said, "Look." And his net worth is freakishly high, right? He's been incredibly successful, right, as a person. But he stood up on the pulpit, on the grandstand at this conference and said in front of about 1,000 people, he's like, I have not been successful because I've just been smarter than everybody else. He's like, or just luckier than everybody else. He's like, I'm successful when I jump into a business because I iterate faster than everybody else. It means I fail faster and I learn faster and then I try something new faster. And he's like, and that process of iteration is what creates success. It's not guessing right the first time.
Yep.
And I feel like you're kind of exemplifying that, saying, hey, look, we guessed, we invested, and we tried, and then we maybe didn't measure as much as we should along the way, or maybe we ignored the feedback or whatever. But then you listened to the feedback and said, we're wrong. Arm swipe, like clear the table, and let's focus all that energy back to where it belongs. Right? I just love that you had the courage to do that, but it's not about guessing right. It's about iteration. And I totally agree with Kevin on that.
Yeah, I think that's a superpower I have is the ability to. We just had today. You mentioned in the intro. Today's mom's birthday, so we
Mhm.
had a quick little surprise party for mom. She thought she was signing a doc, and haha, got you. It was fun. We also had a franchisee that was in just to chat and say hi, and we got to talking about it, and it was that same kind of idea of test and iterate and try and try and try and never stop and keep going and he had an idea about what kind of some territory management stuff and I was kind of just spitballing sending ideas back to him
Mhm.
and it I was like look man like there's 7 or 8 ideas like on the table right now and I will literally just keep going until you tell me to pick one. Like, let's pick one and chase it, but I will just keep what if in this sucker and throwing out a ooh, could we and ooh, maybe this would work until I pass out. Like,
Mhm.
I that is somewhere in there, right? That's at bats, right? If you take enough at bats, you're gonna get a home run, and
Mhm.
somewhere in there, I'm gonna hit a bomber out of the park, and you're gonna hang on to it, and it's gonna be the greatest thing you ever heard. I will just keep swinging until you tell me that's the one.
Mhm.
Um, but I never called it iteration. I always just, try or take another swing. But yeah, I think that is something that I've never, that rewarded me in safety and success in the fire department because you get jammed up, you got, solution better come to you because if you run out of air, that you don't have time for it to come from somebody else.
Mhm.
So I think it started getting created there in cats in a tree, ducks in a gutter, houses on fire, cars wrecked, whatever it is, solution crafting, like with limited information and a require to act, right? Not a lot of contemplation time. So
Mhm.
maybe I pull the trigger faster than others, but I think it's a blessing, not a curse.
Yeah, I would agree because when you know it's right, you got to take action on it. And yeah, I appreciate you sharing this part of your journey. I think this is an interesting topic that people ought to talk about more. And hopefully you can weave some of that into your presentation at the Service Franchise Summit this summer. I think people will enjoy hearing that. The vulnerability is much appreciated, my friend. and being willing to talk about, hey, like, some people are listening to this will be like, wasn't that the guy that was talking about AI like a year ago? And like, you got to eat some crow and be like, yeah, man, we are not doing that anymore because it's not helping our focus, which is the franchisees. Like, I love that you guys were willing to bring it back to what's the number one rule of franchising and just stay focused on that.
It, it's amazing for anyone who has an issue, who's struggling as a brand or franchisor right now. The answer is in your franchisees. Period. End of story. Like your struggles, your difficulties, the answer lies within your franchisees. Ask them. They're probably telling you already. You just haven't been willing or tuned to the right frequency to hear it.
That's the perfect soundbite to wrap up our recording today, my friend. But man, great wisdom. I look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks as well. And happy birthday, Karen.
Appreciate you, Dave.
Of course. You too.